She was 21 years old, 3 months from graduation, and 26 years of grief started with a phone call. On February 20th, 2000, a neighbor in an apartment complex on Whitegate Drive, Columbia, Missouri, picks up the phone. There's arguing next door, loud enough to make someone uncomfortable, loud enough to make someone act. A disturbance is reported. Police show up, and the two people inside, a 21-year-old student named Candice Richie and her boyfriend, Central Wilson, they assure officers everything is fine. Officers leave without further action. Now, here's where it gets dark. 5 days later, a different neighbor calls to report about the same apartment. This time, it's not arguing they're calling about. It's a smell. Police enter Candice's apartment and find her body, covered, decomposing, alone in the place she called home. 2 phone calls, 5 days apart, same building. And between those 2 calls, a system made a decision that would take 26 years to undo. That was February 2000. 26 years later, February 2026, this is breaking news.
After waiting for more than 20 years, there's been an arrest in the killing of a University of Missouri student.
KMBC9's Eric Graves looks back at the case that haunted a family for a generation and speaks with the victim's brother about the moment they got the call they'd been praying for.
Everyone is celebrating, and honestly, I get it. But before you join that celebration, I need you to sit with something. The system being praised right now for solving this case is the exact same system that closed it, with 1 letter, in 2000. A prosecutor looked at the wording in Candice's autopsy report, decided it wouldn't hold up in court, and that was it. Case closed. The case stayed 26 years on a shelf until Candice's brother, by then a state representative, sat across from authorities and begged them to look again. Her family is saying thank God today, and I get that. We all would. But thank God had 26 years of chances to show up earlier. It could have been heard in 2002, 2005, and even 2010. So I want to ask you something. Is this a cold case, or is this an ignored cold case? Stay with me and decide. Before we go any further, I need you to know who Candice actually was, because this case has a habit of reducing her to a victim, and I'm not going to do that. Candice Richie was 3 months from graduation at the University of Missouri, triple majoring in political science, philosophy, and Black studies. Not because it was easy, because she wanted to understand every system she planned to fight one day. She held the McNair Scholarship. That is not a small thing. That is a full academic recognition of someone who is headed somewhere serious, law school, a career fighting for people who couldn't fight for themselves. Beyond all of that, beyond the resume and the ambition, her younger brother Mark was in 8th grade, just watching his big sister become everything she said she would be. And this is how he describes her, even after 26 years.
She was always wanting to uplift the lives of the Black community and was a very strong voice. She loved singing R&B music, and we would dance all the time in the living room together.
That was Candice. That is who was in that apartment on Whitegate Drive in February 2000. Now, I told you this started with a phone call. Let me take you back to that first one. February 20th. Police arrive at Whitegate Drive. They see Candice. They see Central Wilson, a man she had only recently started dating. Both say everything is fine, no visible injuries. Officers leave. But here is what the officers didn't stay to hear. The neighbors did. After the police left, the arguing continued, raised voices, the kind of sounds that travel through thin walls and stay with you long after the night ends. Wilson left Missouri within days, and I want you to really think about how he left. Not a flight, not a drive, a bus back to South Carolina, where he turned himself in on an unrelated warrant. A man last seen with a woman who would be found dead 5 days later chose to leave the state and hand himself in for a different crime. She was alone in that apartment while he rode that bus. And the police? They saw exactly what that meant.
Trying to talk to anyone around here who knows him.
That is 2000 footage. where the reporter spoke about police looking for someone who knows Wilson. They knew who they were looking for from day one. They knew his name. They had a timeline, and he was already in custody in another state on a different charge. And still, no arrest was made in Candice's death. This was not a mystery. This was never a mystery. Candice stopped showing up to class, stopped answering calls. And then, on February 25th, 5 days after that first phone call, a neighbor made the second one. She was found the way no person should ever be found. Alone, decomposing, in a place that was supposed to be safe, by strangers. The autopsy came back in March. Homicide, probable suffocation, an intimate, deliberate act, the kind that requires you to be close to someone. The Columbia Police Department zeroed in on Wilson immediately. The timeline was damning. The neighbor accounts of the fighting were damning. His decision to board that bus was damning. Detectives pushed for charges. And now I want you to hear directly from the police chief himself in 2026 why that didn't happen.
The case was referred over to the Boone County Prosecutor's Office in May of 2000. At that point, there were some concerns about the ability to establish a clear medical cause of death for the victim. A lot of the facts that were back in 2000 are the same facts now. We just were able to clean up some of the language to make it presentable for court.
Did you catch that? Clean up the language. That is what he called it. Not new evidence, not a new witness. They cleaned up the language of an autopsy report that already existed. And that right there is why Candice's case sat on a shelf for 26 years. One prosecutor, one letter. Because probable suffocation appeared in the autopsy. Central Wilson walked free. He eventually served 40 years in South Carolina for robbery and assault, convicted for violence against other people, while Candice's file gathered dust in Missouri. And while that file sat on that shelf, I need you to see what was happening at the same time.
If anyone has any information that can help us put closure on this case, we would be eternally grateful.
That was Candice's parents in the year 2000, on camera, begging for anyone who knew anything to come forward. While the case was already heading toward a shelf, it would sit on for over 2 decades. And through all of it, one person never stopped. The boy in 8th grade who used to dance with his sister in the living room. He didn't stop. For 26 years, Mark Sharp carried this. He went into politics. Some people say it's because his sister never got to practice the law she loved. He would drive to her old apartment on Whitegate Drive and sit in the parking lot, staring at the door she once walked through, with no answers and nowhere to put what he was feeling. He kept knocking on every door the system put in front of him. In early 2025, he walked into the Columbia Police Department and sat across from investigators and the Missouri Attorney General's office and asked them, again, to look at his sister's case. The Missouri AG's cold case section came in. They went back to the evidence. They re-interviewed witnesses. And they did what should have been done in 2000. They clarified the language in that autopsy report. The same language a prosecutor used to justify walking away from a family. On February 24th, 2026, 26 years after Candice's body was found, a Boone County grand jury indicted Centrell Wilson for first-degree murder. Arrested in Spartanburg County, South Carolina. No bond set. Extradition to Missouri underway. Now I want you to hear how the police described this moment.
The reality is, they solved this case back in 2000 with all of the work that they did at that time.
The evidence hadn't changed. The suspect hadn't changed. What changed was that someone finally decided. Candice Richie was worth more than a letter. Look, this case has brought jubilation. That makes a lot of sense. A solved, ignored case is better than one that stays ignored forever. But here's what I keep thinking about. Could this have been prevented? Not the murder, the 26 years of silence after it. Because this is a pattern where one word, one letter, Something so small you'd barely notice it turns a murder case into a cold case, and a cold case into a family that spends decades with nowhere to put their grief. Sometimes one push, one person who refuses to sit down, is the only difference between a family that gets answers and a family that doesn't. And I want you to hear that from the person who knows it better than anyone.
Any families out there that have had to experience violent crime, where you may not have been able to get justice as fast as you want, do not give up on those cases.
Candice got her case off the shelf because her brother refused to let the system forget her name. Maybe one push can make your thank God come sooner. Maybe one look in the right direction can make someone's grief finally mean something. Candice's case is off the shelf. The remaining thousands are still waiting for someone to care enough to push. I'm Fifth Witness. If this made you think, subscribe, because there are more cases like this one, and somebody needs to keep asking the questions nobody else is asking.